The room is silent except for the rhythmic beeping of medical equipment. A nurse adjusts an IV drip while checking vitals on a monitor. The once powerful figure in the hospital bed seems diminished, but his eyes still hold a fierce light. His trembling hand reaches for the phone on the bedside table. "Sir, are you sure you want to make this call now? The doctor said you should rest," the nurse says gently. Muhammad Ali's lips quiver slightly as he forms the words with effort. "Some things can't wait for tomorrow." The nurse nods, helps position the phone, and quietly leaves the room. Ali's fingers, once capable of devastating opponents with lightning speed, now struggle to press the numbers. Each digit requires tremendous concentration, but he refuses to give up. He has one more fight left in him. The phone rings 3 times before a deep, familiar voice answers. "Hello?" Ali grips the phone tighter, summoning his strength. "George, it's me." There's a moment of stunned silence on the other end. "Muhammad, is that really you?" "The one and only," Ali manages, his voice barely above a whisper but carrying the echo of his former bravado. In his Texas home, George Foreman sits up straight, his heart pounding. He hasn't heard from Ali in months, and the sound of his voice, so fragile now, sends a chill through him. "Muhammad, what's wrong? Where are you calling from?" "Phoenix, hospital." Ali pauses, gathering his strength. "George, I need to ask you something important." Foreman grips the phone tighter, sensing the gravity in Ali's tone. "Anything, Muhammad. Anything at all. Remember what we promised back in Zaire?" Foreman closes his eyes, memories flooding back from that night in 1974. The promise they made in the locker room after the rumble in the jungle, when the world thought they were bitter enemies. A promise they had kept secret for over 40 years. "I remember," Foreman says, his voice cracking. "Every word. Time to keep it," Ali whispers. "I don't have much longer." Foreman's eyes fill with tears. "Don't talk like that. You're the greatest of all time, remember? You'll beat this like you beat me." Ali chuckles, the sound transforming into a painful cough. "Even I can't win every fight." Outside Ali's hospital room, doctors and nurses move urgently, their hushed voices suggesting something has changed in his condition. But they don't enter, respecting the privacy of the call that both men somehow know will be their last. George Foreman paces his living room, phone pressed to his ear, memories of 1974 flashing through his mind like lightning. The humid air of Kinshasa, the roar of the crowd chanting "Ali Bomaye," "Ali, kill him," and the humiliation of being defeated by the man everyone had expected him to destroy. "I hated you that night," Foreman admits, his voice thick with emotion. "I was supposed to be the unbeatable champion." On the hospital bed, Ali's lips curl into the ghost of his famous smile. "You were terrifying. Nobody believed I could win. Except you," Foreman says. "Except me," Ali agrees. The conversation takes them back to a moment no one else witnessed. After the cameras had gone, after the journalists had filed their stories. 2 warriors alone, one celebrating victory, the other nursing the first defeat of his professional career. "You came to my dressing room," Foreman recalls. "Everyone thought you were there to gloat." Ali's breathing becomes more labored, but he's determined to continue. "I saw something in your eyes during the fight, something familiar." Foreman sits down heavily in his armchair, remembering how Ali had dismissed everyone from the room that night, how they'd spoken for hours, not as rivals but as 2 black men who understood each other's struggles in a way no one else could. "You told me we were both being used," Foreman says quietly, "that they wanted us to hate each other because they feared what would happen if we became allies. And then we made the promise," Ali whispers. In his Texas home, Foreman nods, even though Ali can't see him, that if either of us ever needed the other, no matter what had happened between us, we would be there. No questions asked. Ali's nurse enters the room with concern written across her face. She checks his vitals and whispers something about his oxygen levels. Ali waves her away, his focus entirely on the call. "George?" Ali says with sudden clarity, his voice momentarily stronger. "They're going to say things about me when I'm gone. They'll try to make me safer, more comfortable. I won't let them." Foreman vows immediately. "I'll keep your real story alive." "That's not what I'm asking." Ali pauses, gathering his strength. "Let them sanitize me. Let them make me A hero everyone can accept. Foreman furrows his brow, confused. But Mohammed, that's not who you were. You stood for something. You sacrificed everything for your beliefs. Exactly, Ali whispers. What matters is what we do, not what they say about us. In Texas, Foreman's grandson knocks on the door, but he waves the boy away, tears streaming down his face. So what are you asking of me, Mohammed? What's the promise you want me to keep? Through the phone, he hears Ali's breathing become more strained. A doctor enters the room, gesturing urgently, but Ali holds up one trembling hand, asking for one more minute. I need you to tell my real story to just one person, Ali says. Someone who can carry it forward when we're both gone. Foreman feels the weight of this request settle on his shoulders. Who? The tension in the hospital room is palpable as the medical staff waits, watching the monitors with growing concern. But Ali isn't finished yet. I'll tell you. But first, there's something else. Ali begins, his voice fading as monitors start to beep more urgently. Mohammed, are you still there? Foreman stands up, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turn white. There's a commotion on the other end of the line. Voices speaking urgently, the sound of equipment being moved. Then Ali's voice returns, weaker but determined. Still here. Not done yet. In the hospital room, doctors hover nearby, clearly wanting to intervene but respecting Ali's determination to finish this call. One adjusts his oxygen while another checks the monitors, their expressions grim. Mohammed, maybe you should let the doctors— No, Ali interrupts with a flash of his old stubbornness. Listen to me, George. What I never told anyone. What I need you to know. Foreman holds his breath, waiting. The fight in Zaire. I was scared. The admission stuns Foreman. Muhammad Ali, the Louisville Lip, the man who had taunted him relentlessly, who had seemed utterly fearless, admitting fear. We were all scared, Mohammed, Foreman says gently. No, you don't understand. Ali insists, each word clearly costing him. I knew. I couldn't beat you. With strength. You were too powerful. In his living room, Foreman sinks back into his chair, confronted with a truth that rewrites his understanding of the most significant fight of his career. The rope-a-dope wasn't planned, Ali continues. It was desperation. I felt your power in the first round. Knew I couldn't trade punches. But you let me hit you, Foreman says incredulously. Round after round, you let me hit you. Had no choice, Ali wheezes. Had to. Make you tired. Only chance. I had. The revelation lands like a blow to Foreman's solar plexus. All these years he'd believed Ali had craftily executed a brilliant strategy. Now he's learning it had been a desperate gamble born of fear. Why are you telling me this now? Foreman asks. There's a long pause filled only with the sound of Ali's labored breathing. When he speaks again, his voice has a new urgency. Because the world needs to know, being brave isn't about not feeling fear. Ali stops, fighting for breath. It's about being terrified and doing what's right anyway. In Texas, Foreman wipes tears from his eyes, understanding the deeper message Ali is entrusting to him. I stood against the war, lost everything. Because I was scared, Ali continues. Not of jail, but of betraying who I really was. A doctor in Phoenix leans close to Ali, whispering something urgently. Ali nods, but continues holding the phone. The person I want you to tell my story to. Ali pauses, and Foreman can hear the strain in his voice. My grandson, he's 7 now. Smart boy. Asks questions about me, about what I did. His parents, they shield him from the complicated parts. You want me to tell him everything? The controversial parts too? Foreman asks. Yes, when he's older. 16 maybe. Old enough to understand, but young enough to be shaped by it. Foreman nods, committing to memory this sacred task. I'll do it, Mohammed. I promise. There's more, Ali whispers, his voice becoming alarmingly faint. What I regret most, the medical equipment begins beeping more insistently. Voices in the background become more urgent. Foreman strains to hear Ali's words as doctors and nurses move around him. What is it, Mohammed? What do you regret? But Ali's next words are drowned out by a sudden flurry of activity. Foreman hears someone say, we need to intubate now, before the line goes silent. Mohammed? Foreman shouts into the phone, rising to his feet. After a moment, a different voice comes on the line. A doctor, her tone professional but compassionate. Mr. Foreman? I'm Dr. Martinez. I'm afraid we need to attend to Mr. Ali right now. His condition has deteriorated suddenly. But he was telling me something important, Foreman pleads. Please just let him finish. I'm sorry, sir. We're doing everything we can. The line goes dead, leaving Foreman standing in his living room, the incomplete conversation hanging in the air like an unfinished prayer. 3 days later, George Foreman stands at his window, staring out at the Texas landscape without really seeing it. The news of Muhammad Ali's death had broken yesterday, sending shockwaves around the world. His phone hasn't stopped ringing. Reporters seeking comments, old boxing friends sharing memories, promoters discussing memorial events. He hasn't answered any of them. His wife enters the room quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. The car's ready whenever you are. The plane to Louisville leaves in 3 hours. Foreman nods, his gaze still fixed on the horizon. I'll be there in a minute. When she leaves, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small notebook. He's written down every word he can remember from that final conversation, determined not to forget a single detail of the promise he made. The funeral will be a global event. Presidents and kings, celebrities and sports legends all coming to pay their respects to the greatest. But Foreman's thoughts are on a 7-year-old boy who will be there, too young to fully understand the weight of his grandfather's legacy. I'll keep my promise, Muhammad, he whispers to the empty room. Every word. As he turns to leave, his phone rings again. He almost ignores it, but something makes him check the caller ID. It's a Phoenix area code, one he doesn't recognize. With a strange sense of foreboding, he answers, "Hello, Mr. Foreman. This is Dr. Martinez from Phoenix Memorial." Foreman's heart pounds in his chest. "Yes, doctor? I was with Mr. Ali during your call the other day," she explains. "He regained consciousness briefly yesterday before he passed." Foreman closes his eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "Did he say anything?" "He did," the doctor confirms. "He was very weak, but he insisted I write something down for you. He made me promise to call after it was over." Foreman holds his breath, waiting. He said, "Tell George what I regret most is not the fights I lost, but the years we wasted as enemies when we could have been brothers. Tell him it's not too late for the world to learn what we learned." Tears stream freely down Foreman's face now. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you for this." After hanging up, Foreman stands motionless for several minutes, Ali's final message echoing in his mind. Then, with sudden determination, he picks up his suitcase and walks out to the waiting car. As they drive to the airport, his mind is already formulating a plan. The world expects him to deliver a eulogy about a boxer, a champion, a legend. Instead, he will tell them about a man who was terrified but fought anyway, not just in the ring, but against injustice, against war, against hatred. And when the time comes, he will sit down with a young boy and tell him the complete, unvarnished truth about his grandfather, a flawed, frightened, magnificent human being who changed the world not because he was fearless, but because he knew that some things are worth being afraid for. The car turns onto the highway, heading toward the airport where a plane waits to take him to Louisville. Foreman looks up at the clear Texas sky and, for the first time since receiving the news, feels a sense of peace. "The greatest fight of your life wasn't against me, Muhammad," he whispers. "It was against fear itself. And you won, brother. You won."